Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and welcome to episode 93. Holy cow, it's a run session. So we've got these two Jeep 9s, N and W, and we're gonna head up from Galgora to Tamaros. We have to take this train of mixed train with some random things from here to Tamaros. That's the first step of our journey. Anyways, during the way, I will be pointing out problems in the route, as it has. This is in TS12, if you couldn't tell by the enhanced graphical quality. First thing is we're missing a station platform over on the left there, where my mouse is actually. That's me noticing that the narrow gauge platform is missing. Whatever. That's probably something that's easily remedied. I could get a station to replace it. Another invisible platform. First things first, though, I need to stop here and pick up these passengers. Now underway, we're working our way out of Galgora. We're running along the currently 4-track main line. Technically we're not. Technically we're just running along the yard lead. Or leads, plural. Out of Galgora. And heading towards Old Orchard Beach. This is one of the most scenic points in the journey because I think the ocean side actually looks pretty nice, and it doesn't have any weird troubles. At least not with the way the game is missing assets. Which there's one very glaring one that I'm gonna have to fix at some point in the future, but I think they may come with a complete rebuild of El Dorado Canyon as it stands. I believe we're exiting the 40-mile-per-hour speed limit zone imposed in the passenger area. That's something that I realized when I was making this. I hadn't put down a lot of speed signs or switch stands, and that's something I went back in 06 and did later. But I just didn't realize it was something that had happened until I came here and, tried to run. Anyways. Yep. So we're on our way out. We're gonna start hitting the grades pretty soon. We're gonna leave this flat and level route that runs along the waterfront as we curve inwards and head toward the bridge, which is the first indicator of the gradient. The grades in El Dorado get pretty intense. Even leading up to is actually even worse. This flat area over here, which doesn't have an official name, probably because it doesn't need one. Although I'm tempted to... No, I don't know. Anyways, there's our speed sign. 70 miles per hour up incoming, although I doubt I'm going to reach 70 miles an hour unless I had plenty of extra power on this train. As it is, I almost stall out at points in the future. One of my future goals for the TV and ARR is to get rid of all the bits where you can see the edge of the world and kind of fill in, not everything, but fill in a lot of areas so that you don't have to worry about those edges. You should have cut to this, but whatever. Anyway, so you see little crosses like that in the landscape that you shouldn't be able to see, right bottom mid. That's something that I want to go on a per tile basis and fill in with some sort of intermediate texture whether it be rock, or roll, or grass, or, I don't know, something. Just to get rid of all those, replace them with something neutral. So it doesn't really matter exactly what it is, so long as it is something, and not the gray hatching that we know so well. Here comes the train. It's going to roll right on into the tunnel without hesitation, but when we come out of the other side, we're going to have to stop. Because our first order of business is to do some switching at Aperture Lumber, which is just on the other side of the tunnel. So here we are waiting for clearance. There's another train that's coming. I actually did call that northbound. There's another train coming northbound on the opposing rail, and we can't cross over and use the industry just yet. They've actually got priority over us because they are a full train and we are an empty train. There it is. Almost full. And there they go, exercising their ability to go quickly on this stretch of track. So we have to switch out some cars. We have to pull the empty flat cars out of the rear, the goods drop off, pick up lumber with them, and then take the full flat cars of goods and swap them out for where the empty flat cars used to be. It's not particularly complicated, but it's made harder by the appearance of those boxcars that are sitting at the end of the line there. If they weren't there, I'd just be able to push the goods wagons into where they need to be. Instead, I have to pull them out and then run them along the main track that goes through there. Also, I'm not sure, but I think we're missing a building here. We're definitely missing a sign. We had a sign or two in the area, and that must have been one of the things that I don't have anymore. Also, this whole part just proves how bad I am at driving. It's our moment to load or unload those flat cars, which obviously it doesn't need to do. So we're going to release the brakes and then pull forwards again. So these yard switch stands are something that I do use quite a bit in the future, and once again, since this recording, I've actually gone in and done a lot of... Oh wait, no, there's the sign. I've gone and done a lot of speed limiting and switch stand placing, especially in Arturo. Arturo is now chock full of switch stands, at least on the standard gauge, all done up in the... These are Canadian National, I think, switch stands. Or at least they're from the Toronto Railland session. World. bring this guy to a halt once again in just a minute. And we're going to have to back into there and load these 3 cars with the lumber that we're getting out of the plant. Also, I had to rebuild the power station rule for this, which is why I'm creating a new baseline session in TS12. I'm not sure how it's going to go over, but I'm going to try to, get everything to work. At least the power station rules are just the same, and just as straightforward. The multiple industries are still a pain in the butt, but at least I know how to do them. I will confess, in a trial run of this, I accidentally ran through the buffer and derailed the car off the end of my train. I mean, I kept going because it was only one car, but it was unfortunate, to say the least. There you go, 2 things of wood. Per flat car, that makes 6 things of wood, of course. And then we're going to pull out of here once again and continue our maneuvers. Fortunately, there aren't any other trains biting to get through in this time. What I can't wait for is to build multiplayer sessions on this route. I'm not going to upload it to the DLS until it's done, because I don't want to upload multiple copies of it to the DLS. I already screwed that over with Car Conundrum. But, yeah, yeah, of course, I won't be able to make multiplayer sessions on this until it's uploaded to the DLS because, well, you can't. Or at the very least, you can't use them. Even if everyone has the same thing, and then, frankly, I think you should be able to start the multiplayer session anyways, and people who don't have the right stuff just can't join, or they see errors. But, I don't know what the point of that is. I understand it from a getting everyone in the game standpoint. It means that anyone can join no matter what, because everyone can get all the assets required. But just from a purely play with friends multiplayer sort of standpoint, it's kind of a hassle. Our train is actually getting kind of long. Of course, we don't need to take those flat cars with us anyways. And if I really wanted to get the most out of everything, I could have dumped the goods in those flat cars and then gone and picked up more lumber with them. But that wasn't the pretense of our assignment here. Which is actually written in the session description, but not with any sort of detail. I don't remember what this session is called, actually. I think it's called, like, Hill Ascension or something. Yeah, it's called Hill Ascension. Because there's a lot of going uphill. There's actually, I believe there's just as much going downhill, but I don't think it matters that much. So we're going to, of course, bring this train all the way through here. I don't know the hotkeys for things yet, so really I'm just using these controls down here. Ideally, I hope it would, ideally, I would run it from the cab. But I'm not content to hop in and out of the cab, and using the mouse to control all the things in the cab is just kind of a pain in the butt. Such a great sound. By the way, that's something I should point out. I do have sound this episode, which is pretty great. Last episode I screwed up. This episode I put the podcast on my iPod and listened to it from my iPod as I drove around. So that limited my need to, cut out the sound. I could just leave the sound in, which is great. Anyways, here we go. Time to leave. So we're on our way up the hill again. We've, as such, left Aperture Lumber, set all the switches back, and been cleared to return to our mainline journeys towards Tamaros, which also needs a complete rebuild, as I might add. I was brainstorming for it the other day. And we're just going to head up the canyon, up and out, and into a predetermined track in the yard. That predetermined track is the assembly/disassembly track. Yeah. Also, over there by the, there's a tourist train over here by the abandoned mine. I didn't build a way up to the abandoned mine yet, but that, I'll work on that later. At some point. And they're just about ready to leave. It's the first train of the day. I began to slow down because I was worried about exceeding the speed limit, and then I realized that we're about to hit some real heavy grades, and there's no way in hell I'm going to exceed the speed limit. In fact, I was worried about stalling out, which was a genuine concern, actually. In some cases, I do regret doing this in non-DCC mode, but I really don't think it matters that much. And I'm surprised that I was using those controls in the corner so much, because I think the actual production value of playing in a realistic control mode is actually being in cab mode for part of it. Of course, there's a problem with the cabs on these Jeeps, and that's the view is about, I don't know, it's several feet higher than what it's supposed to be at. So we've got the other train running wrong way, trying to get to us. Not trying to get to us, just trying to get to Tamaros. They're scheduled to enter Platform 1 in just a little while. So they've got to get up there and get through the passenger section of the yard and get into the terminal. We're just barely getting up this hill. Oh, look, the yellow signal. We should slow down. Oh, wait. We're going mad slow anyways. So the little excursion train disappears off into the distance. Over thereabouts. It leaves us in the dust. Even though they're an 060 and we're 2 Jeep 9s. But, of course, we're carrying about 300 tons. And they're not. Far have we got to go? There's Tamaros in all its glory. I do realize that the roundhouse doesn't fit so much length on its turntable. It can't fit a Y6B or a T1, which are just about the same length anyways. Certainly can't fit a big boy. But yeah, the whole place needs a redesign, and it may or may not be done before Vale. So here we go. Different perspectives, everything comes into the yard. Passenger train is going through and heading towards the station, and there's our freight train pulling in the background. just very gingerly rolling into the siding, on which it will be disassembled. The switcher will come out, we'll take the train apart, and then the engine will depart to the roundhouse. The engines, plural, will depart to the roundhouse or be used for return service. There's a couple buildings missing from Tamaros, but that's no big deal. So here's the other leg of our journey. We're in Arturo right now, departing with a massive train of boxcars. I don't think any of them are loaded though, I'm not sure if I bothered to load them. Although it may be better that I didn't, because even the big boy was having trouble on the grade. To be fair though, this is quite a long train. I probably wouldn't run this train on any normal day. Pretty sure this is one at every 40-foot boxcar. Or at least close to. It certainly doesn't have any duplicates. Maybe it does. I don't remember. This is, the boxcars, the consists that I got the boxcars from were taken from the cargo conundrum scenario. So, in that scenario I did kind of go to great lengths to make sure there weren't too many, at least, duplicate boxcars, and we had way more variety than we could ever use. Coming out onto the main line now, there's this swamp right there. Over to the right. Swamp looks pretty much the same, which is just fine. Oh, I forgot to point out these shiny things. Oh, you know what? We'll probably be able to see them anyways. After we get into El Dorado Canyon. Unless I skip past that part as well. Either way, there's a missing texture which makes, gives like a glassy reflection towards the sky. I'll probably point it out in later episodes because I'm not one to come here and fix textures. The front three boxcars are N and W. I'm not entirely sure why the front three boxcars are N and W. As I said, I went to great lengths to kind of randomize and deorganize for Cargo Conundrum. I guess these guys must have just not made it, or these guys must have slid under the radar, as it were. You know, I never checked to see if they actually were loaded. I don't know, even to this day. But the area looks pretty cool, which is a good sign. I mean, we're about to pass the one little section of this that doesn't have any land on it, so that's problematic. But we're going to fix that next episode. I promise. I don't really promise. But it is something I should work on, so yeah. Heading towards the precipice of the pass. So we've got this incredibly long train of boxcars behind us. If I moved up a little bit, you'd be able to see it. Realize that the coal thing doesn't really do a damn thing, and I have to mash the spacebar in order to get coal into the firebox. Just wanted to have this moment here. When I was driving, I totally forgot about what I threw in that's coming up, which was only possible in TS12 because, of course, the CDPs are not backwards compatible. They're barely forwards compatible anyways. Most of them aren't. But we come down the other side of the pass and I kill the acceleration. Let us just kind of coast. Blowing the whistle for nobody. We're coming to a flatter stretch now, and hey, what's that in the distance? Oh, it's just an express passenger train. Must have come through Tamaros after we left. The Malay and the Duplex. He's gonna go right through Arturo and keep on going. He's probably got orders all the way through Aperture. Unless he's going to Anaconda, which is doubtful, but possible. So we're just coming down this gradient into Tamaros. This place will obviously look better once we get the trees in and stuff. Of course, it won't be particularly interesting. Speaking of trees, the Maple Beach birch spline, which supposedly the download station couldn't find, is here anyways. So, I don't know what that tells you. But, it tells you something. So once we get in Tamaros, there's going to be another quick and dirty cut to get us through, because navigating through Tamaros was just kind of hell, especially with something this big on curves as tight as those. It looked bad, so I cut it out, which is another reason why we need to redo Tamaros. The more it hangs around, the more I hate it. Frankly, that and the El Dorado area are kind of novicely built. Gonna continue to coast, trying to use not a lot of steam. Of course, I try to use the reverser to slow down way more often than I do the brakes. I find that it responds quicker and it's less finite. As in, if you throw the brakes on, you're probably gonna, you're at least gonna make a very, very good effort at stopping. It's gonna take a minute, but, everything in the train is gonna lock up. However, if you just put the reverser in, you'll get an immediate response. So here we come into El Dorado Canyon. We're going to get to see the entire train go by. Somebody count the cars with me. Just kidding, I'm not going to count the cars. I lied, I counted the cars. That was 34. So we're coming through the bottom of El Dorado Canyon again. It's familiar territory, no doubt. From earlier in the video, at least. The switches are not aligned for Aperture lumber because we are smart and throw our switches back. the engine made an attempt at slowing down, or not at slowing down per se, but it made an attempt at or I stopped the acceleration and all the couplers stopped going slack. So I believe we're going to hop over the mountain and watch it come out the other side. Yeah, so there are duplicates in there, but no more than 2 of each. I think it was because I ran out of boxcars. Unique ones, at least. So we come out of the tunnel and then start going down that crazy grade on the other side here. I do spend a lot of time keeping the engine in check with the reverser and the independent brake, which now I understand its function. Just making sure all the switches are set, and I'm going to bring us into the yard. Trying to figure out exactly where to put us. With a train this big, you gotta be careful. Everything has that nice switch sound except for that one, which hasn't been properly replaced. Anyway, so here we are, kind of moving at a leisurely pace. I'm surprised we didn't pick up as much speed as we did. But I refuse to go that much faster. No particular reason why. I just don't believe I felt like speeding up in order to slow down as soon as we hit the yard, where the speed limit is, I'm pretty sure, 25 miles an hour. It's either 25 or 40. I think it might be 25 now, and I may have changed it to 40 later. No, it's 45. This area is 45. And then the yard must be 25. So we had a very narrow gauge heavy operating session last time. This time we had a standard gauge only. So at some point in the future, in maybe 10 episodes, actually I'll probably do a run session for episode 100. Because it's episode 100, so, you know, why not? So start coming up with ideas for that. We'll probably have a bit more of Arturo done. Maybe we might even have Arturo done by then. That's 7 episodes out, or well, 6. Anyway, start coming up with stuff, and also figure out what you want to see me do next in terms of building. Just so I can get the first ideas. Now, I do like to ask in advance. Also, I am tempted to pre-release an unfinished copy of the map at some point. Although I'm not sure how willing I am to do that. Most of the regular old Tamaros Vale and Anaconda, at least in 2006, is built with built-in assets. You can load it into TS12 and get everything you see here after about 3 days of downloads. If you're not on a first-class ticket. I would know. Here we come into the yard, blowing away the speed limit. Nobody cares. We're good to proceed. If you take a look at all the stuff, I decided to populate the yard, even though I knew we wouldn't be using it. And I ended up changing the speed limit in here later. To, I think, 40. No particular reason why. I guess the only thing I could think of was that I wouldn't want to be driving that slowly through these areas. I just don't want to be that constrained. The passenger line that runs along the side of it is actually still 60 in this area. Well, it will be when we get the new copy of the map into TS12 for the next run session. But here we are. We're going to bring the whole train straight into this spur. I suppose this would be the disassembly track. Although, once again, we normally wouldn't have trains this big coming in. Nor would we have trains coming in this direction. I mean, ideally you'd have someone run out and around the big loop there, around this plateau that's built for the narrow gauge. Which we still need to put the multiple industries on, by the way. So I apply the train brake. It's not enough, for the record. We kind of slide out the other end. But not completely. We end up just underneath the oil pipe. And stop. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Train Man out. I will see you next week.